time for another ending on the Famicom, because this is the last bowling game. Okay, there's only 3 bowling games on the Famicom, but it's still a sign of how things are winding down. The Famicom Championship Bowling is sometimes pointed to as a port of a 1989 arcade game Championship Bowling, but I'm fairly confident that this isn't the case. For one thing, they're not the same game. They may both be bowling, but the style of play is completely different. The other thing is that the Arcade Championship Bowling was by Seta, and Seta publishes their own Famicom games. They don't have to take theirs to Athena. The Famicom Championship Bowling is a basic bowling game. You pick your player, you pick the weight of the ball, and then you bowl 10 frames. Line yourself up and hit the A button to start the action. Hit the button again to determine how much spin you want on the ball, and one more time for the power meter. Easy peasy. Up to 4 players can play, and there's 5 different lanes to choose from. So I explained the entire contents of the game in less than 30 seconds. What's the rest of this video about? Well, Championship Bowling is a terrible bowling game. You might remember that the first Famicom bowling game, Dynamite Bowl, was also pretty awful. And Championship Bowling is bad in almost all of the same ways that Dynamite Bowl was. 4 years later, and they couldn't come up with a way to make a better bowling game. The first problem? The physics are deterministic, which isn't horrible, but there's so few states that your ball is going to impact the pins with, that you're going to see the exact same results over and over and over again. The second problem? The pins have no weight. There's no sensation of the pins going flying and knocking over other pins. Instead, they seem to just lie down when they're hit by the ball. Unless, of course, the ball enters the physics engine just the right way, in which case they can move. Putting spin on the ball doesn't curve its path. Instead, the ball reaches a predetermined point and then shoots off at a 45-degree angle. That point is adjusted by the power of your shot, the weight of the ball, and how much spin you put on it. If you want to see any effect on the ball, though, you do have to go big. Being slightly off-center just means it will swerve at the very last second. Splits are really common in this game, and the only way to deal with them is by using that sharp angle. If you hit the pin at the edge, it doesn't go off to the side because they haven't modeled the pins very well. It's also extremely difficult to get a strike here. There are certain shots in bowling that you want to try for because they're more likely to get a strike, and they don't work properly in Championship Bowling. The poor modeling of the pins and the deterministic physics just make this frustrating. Now I know this is going to be shocking when it comes to such a bad bowling game, but this is a game that absolutely nobody cares about. A Famicom bowling game was never going to get much attention, but Championship Bowling is just so incredibly bad. If you want to bowl on your Famicom, then Perfect Bowling is the one to get. That one was surprisingly well done. Championship Bowling, on the other hand, is just awful.